Alright, welcome back to the RAM Revival. Not sure what all we'll have going on this time, but I was about to make like some significant progress. Thought, you know, should probably record that, even though it's kind of lame and vehicle specific. But if it happened to this truck, there's a good chance it could be wrong with your second gen RAM as well. So what we have on the front is, of course, the grill guard. That is a bracket. There's not one over here. Why? Well, if you recall, right there is going to be where this would come up to the grill guard itself, tracing back down into that cavity. If we can spot it, okay, you're going to see a hole to the leftmost region of the viewfinder, right? We're not worried about that. We're worried about a hole that's basically tucked up under that bracket that you see right here. It's very difficult to see, but essentially I believe there would have been a nutsert type of a thing there, and it's gone, and that's a problem. That's why the bolt dropped out, and that's why this, instead of riding, you know, parallel through this chasm, our opening in the bumper, it's actually down and was dragging, if you recall, when we kind of took it apart. So we're missing the hardware there. I have no clue what it is. We have to dissect the other side to learn, and as best I know, and this could be wrong, this is an M8 by 35 millimeter, and you think, what's that gold thing on the end? This is a Rivnut. And this is what I'm hoping I can snake in there and get to catch, so we can thread this in. Threads beautifully. Again, M8 Rivnut M8 bolt. What size hole? I don't really know. I've never done a metric one, so we're going to figure that out. I think 7/16 would for sure do it. I'm going to try to snake up behind that. I think like a 27/64, somewhere in that range. The catch is, if I can grab this light from up here. It's kind of hard to get to that, right? So I was trying to go cordless, couldn't do it, and you can actually see where that pulled out. At least I can. This might take a while, but we'll get there. So there's your bracket, and then where you kind of see like it's literally torn out. Whatever happened, the threaded insert is torn out. So this is what we have to do. We have to use the good old Never Will Die Black & Decker. Why? I'd have to turn on an air compressor for the air drill. Air drills, very underrated. They're very compact, especially compared to anything battery powered. So here in recent years, the move is to get as big of a battery as possible, you know, as much power as possible. And then you have situations like this, and unless you've got some crazy, you know, 2-foot long drill bits, it ain't happening. So this guy actually snakes through that opening, which is awesome. So we're going to enlarge that torn out hole as best we can, hopefully. I debated trying to pound that Rivnut in there. I may actually try that first, just in the event we don't want to go too large. But right over there, we have the 7/16, which I know will work, but that's our little Rivnut tool. And yes, I do think we'll be able to do it. I really wish there was like a butterfly compact version of it for stuff like this. Your solution, I guess like the proper way to do this, which is really kind of unfortunate, would be to take the bumper cover off, which in the case of having a grill guard requires taking the grill guard off, you guessed it. So we're going to try to go the easy street way here. And like I said, it's nothing fancy, it's nothing exciting, but it's something that could possibly be wrong with your truck as well. So if you're curious what that bracket is, that would be the transcooler. If I take you back up here, all kinds of stuff falling down over there. See those two funky lines? There's that threaded rod. It's actually convoluted tubing, now that you can see the bend. But right there, those two black lines that disappear behind that leather screen, those actually run up to the transcooler. You have bolt 1 down there, bolt 2 mirrors on the other side, and then your third bolt is going to be at the apex right behind your core support brace, if you will, where your radiator bolts to. So those are your 3 fasteners. And I've set the rag down so we don't scratch it up inadvertently with the drill. But I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, either punch it in or drill it out and then tap it in and see if we can't get that Rivnut installed so we can thread that through and have the brace properly supported. Alright, so sadly missed a couple of days here, but where I left off, I decided I was sick of having that file not have a handle on it. So right there we got a little PB Swiss that kind of fits it. I was starting to straighten out the tang, and that's when I kind of got pulled away. So that tang is still We made a big improvement, but it's still kind of messed up. But I'm going to go ahead and straighten it just a little bit more if I can. And then we're going to stick it in there. Why? Because filing in here, all that distance into the abyss, is a pain in the butt. So I'm going to get that file handle on there and be a little bit more comfortable while we work. Alright, why the pliers wrench? Well, quite simply, they helped me with the tang. I didn't feel like going to the vise where we'd straighten it out considerably. There's the end result. It's a Simmons USA file if you're curious. A super nice file, cuts like crazy. But, what we're more interested in right now is this. It's not the VHA driver, it's going to be right here. You see the gold thing? Well, that's the Rivnut. And it is not in. It's in, but we haven't like set it, if you will, expanded it. Again, something catastrophic happened there. It got ripped out. So what I'm going to do is see if I can come in. Now I'm holding the camera crooked. If I were to hold the camera straight, we would be behind this line, this light I should say. And the way the sport bumper is, I think on a non-sport you'd have even less access. Kind of depends on the placement. The best way to do this is to have the bumper cover off, but we've left the bumper cover on all this time, and there's also a grill guard that results in a more cumbersome removal process. So I'm going to attempt to go in there. The issue is you have to fan the handles out, and it's not exactly the most compact thing in the world, so we're essentially working through this cavity. And, I'm going to see if I can do it, so I need both hands for that. I'll let you know how it goes. If it's successful, we can sort of clean up, and I'd love to shoot some paint back there on what we file. I don't know if that's possible either, really. But we'll kind of get all that going, and then we'll be ready to kind of just reassemble the grill guard braces, have them not ride down on the bumper, and it'll be a small victory. Alright, where's the Rivnut, you say? Well, the Rivnut's not installed. The Rivnut's on top of the grill guard, and the reason for that, ain't no way. You gotta have these handles fanned out. And I tried coming through the front like I wanted to. That's easiest. I tried going over the top, coming in from the bottom. It just is not going to happen without removing everything. We still could go that route, or I could buy the 1443B, I believe is the part number. Did not know the thing existed. When I bought this, I tried to get the most compact one that I could, and apparently we did not. And this, while I think this would be desired, I would want more leverage, you know, as much leverage and as much, you know, easier to use the tool, I suppose. This would be ideal for that, but that's a tight quarter situation. I was having trouble finding anything, and then boom, popped up with that. So it is what it is. I was trying to find a compact Rivnut tool. I was thinking like palm size, if you will. And, yeah, we might order that thing. I don't know. It's probably better use of my time to buy the tool than take everything off. If it was just the bumper cover and not the grill guard, I think it'd be a different story. But who knows? The bumper cover may come off anyway, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But this project is temporarily suspended, unfortunately. So I'll get to order some tools tonight, which means I'll probably find some other cool stuff for more content on the channel. But for now, I think this would be the route to go unless you're in tight quarters. So what's next? Let's find out. Well, this is what's next. Washer fluid only. Kind of annoying when you're in the truck and you constantly see that light come on your gauges. So while we're waiting for the tune, we've got this, and I told you I wanted to get rid of those warning lights. This is one of them. It's easy to do, and I'm cheap, so I still have the same washer fluid that was in there. True story. I'm someone that doesn't tend to use that ever, if at all. It kind of has to be like your traveling type of a thing, and the windshield is absolutely decimated with bugs. You're going into the sun and you can't see for me to kind of resort to that, but nonetheless, this is going to get liquid in there. There's a sensor. The liquid touches the sensor. We're done. No more warning lights. So how are we going to get it in there? Well, my usual funnel was kind of covered in oil, right? Little yellow guy. It's been sitting in a bath of oil. So I thought, you know, I've been needing to open this up for quite some time. This stuff's probably been here months at this point, but this is from Griot, so you can probably get these all over the place. But this is actually 3 funnels that are collapsible. I, yes, bought them for detail supplies. Basically take inexpensive big jugs like that and put them into like more expensive 16-ounce spray bottles. Why? Thrifty. And basically I'm going to open one of these up. I'll try to use the smaller medium one. We'll stick it in there. We'll put that there, and the warning light for the washer fluid will be gone. Alright, so smallest funnel selected. Gonna try to one-hand this. It's probably a terrible idea. It's luckily a brand new funnel, so it should be clean. And can we do this through the camera? We sort of can. Look at us go. Absolutely skill level 10 on this one. But this should fill it up nicely. I don't think we have this thing like overflowing by any means. I don't really know. And I can't see because I'm holding you. You're welcome. But we'll stop there and kind of see where we're at, just to be non-idiots. And I think we're to the sensor, but I'll just go ahead. I kind of want to get this out of my floor, so that's what we're going to do. It's amazing how hard it is to hold a camera in one hand, narrate something, and then pour a 3/5 of a gallon of washer fluid into a really, really relatively small funnel. But somehow we've pulled it off. Clutch. Every last drop, we're going to leave that draining. Why? Thrifty. So, let's check it out. Can we see it? Yes, we can. Very cool. I don't think anything's leaking. You usually want to check that before you just continuously dump, but looks like we have it covered. And that's one more thing out of the shop floor. So this would have been way more satisfying had we have had that Rivnut and the grill guard fixed before we did that, which was the intention. But hey, it is what it is. So what's next in this train wreck of a video? I guess we could put coolant in. Maybe we'll stick with that system there. So let me round that up or change course. We'll see which one we decide to do. Alright, so where we left off on this front, I went in and did some research. There's the, like I said, the 1443B, which sort of looks more like a hand riveter. Not sure it would fit. Turns out there's one that's pretty cool. It might be something we pick up anyway. There's of course two sizes, just like you see with rivet guns. You know, you kind of have like your cut off 3/16 and then quarter. Rivnuts seem to do the same thing. And of course we, for this M8, if we're trying to match the factory stuff, we need the larger size, but might bring that in. It sort of works with your drill, and it's kind of like a, I think it's maybe 12-inch overall. I kind of think it might fit. No one's really giving dimensions on the circumference of that thing, which is what we need in this instance of having a opening in the bumper we're going through. But man, let me tell you, this turned into quite the nightmare for something so simple. So you can kind of see what's going on here. We got files, we got wrenches, we got ridiculous long extensions. The ratchet wouldn't do it. Yeah, let me grab this guy. So basically, you can set these by hand or with, you know, out the tool. And this one kind of collapsed funkily. You can see it would like been fine here, and then there it sort of failed. And the reason for that is, I guess, the washer, but two, that hole, just the way it ripped out. It took a lot of work. That's why the rotary tool is here. The glove saved my hands from Lord knows how many cuts. But coming up in here, you're going to see a couple of things. Number one, way back there, you'll see a washer I've got to retrieve. Number two, everything that looks like gray powder. So, I would tell you that that's primer, but my better guess is that it's this terrible frickin' grinding stone. That thing did not look like a flying saucer when I started, and it was brand new, and there wasn't that much that we needed to take off. So this is from one of those like Harbor Freight 200 some odd piece kits. And all I was trying to do is take off like a ripped edge, right? The file, it's like impossible to get in there and do anything worthwhile, the flat file. And so I thought, man, you know what? This is just what I need, something with surface material. And it mushroomed that thing in like 4 seconds. It was insanity. Might be the worst I've ever seen. So I believe, you know, while we did have metal shrapnel there, we're guilty of that when we drilled it out, like everything light colored is that stone shredding itself. So that's interesting. But you'll note, if I focus here, that thing's finally in there, I think. I haven't like seated the bolt and tested it, but I think it's in. And I will tell you, that brace right there is the biggest pain in the butt. I came in, I had to take off the transcooler lines on the flip side. I didn't film that, you know, we've covered it before, but that kind of gave me a little bit more flexibility. I was trying to get it up top. You can't pry too much because you've got a radiator there. This is just ridiculous for something this simple. So it's actually gotten pretty late. I've got work. I've not gotten really any sleep this weekend like I planned to do. And haven't had much time out here either, but I've spent more time than I'd like to admit out here on this mess, probably like 40 minutes to an hour. And I think I'm just gonna run that bolt in, see if it works, and call this part good. You got a decent angle here, so we avoided having to buy the tool. I do think the tool is pretty dadgum cool. Now the caveat there, number one, what we've got probably uses more real estate than the thing that I might order in anyway. There is the compact one. I'm sure that thing will usually, something like that, it's either going to be A, really difficult to do, or B, really difficult to do by hand, and also, depending on the quality of steel used, which typically isn't great, you're going to wind up like breaking the handle. Just that's how that stuff is. I don't know of an American-made option. It's nothing against Astro. It's just that's the way that stuff goes. Maybe you can set like tiny things like 1/4-20 or, you know, screws, but like step up to like 3/8-16 and you're probably going to break the handle and hurt your hand. So that's why that one on the drill is really cool. But I'm hoping that this is just taken care of and I can like move on with my life. So yeah, I'm going to turn the fan back up so I can stay a little cooler in here. And dadgum, that was just stupid. It's the little things, it really is, that wind up taking the most time. So with that said, I'm gonna hopefully be able to run that in. If you were unaware, basically what happened, or what I did, so we've got our bolt. This is the actual bolt I plan to use there, which is probably not the best idea. And I don't have metric hardware. Like, I have metric hardware from stuff I've taken off modern cars, and that's it. Like, I don't buy it, I don't collect it. I keep it, you know, when I have it, like in a takeoff situation, or if like parts come with new hardware or trick hardware. But man, I am ill-equipped for metric land. I think I bought these a while back, maybe even with the gantry crane or something, just in anticipation of this was a known issue before the water pump started to fill. But you have your bolt, you have a flat, you have an oversized nut. This is, of course, SAE. That's why there's a Stavilla down there on that towel. That thing went flying a few times. And, I used a weird size, 7/16, because it's like, yeah, I don't really use that too often, so I don't care if I screw it up. And I tell you, I was very, very close to bushing this thing out and just making it 3/8 and calling it a day. But the way this method works is you have this set up like I mentioned. You got your bolt, you got a flat, you got an oversized nut, then you've got another flat. That one is currently located there on the cross member of the truck. And then on the end of that, you would thread your Rivnut, right? And you then locate it in the hole, and you need to hold it flat. That's the issue. That is where, one, the accessibility here, which is minimal, is an issue. And two, that ridge of metal that's stuck up, I think that might have really been the downturn, because my hand got beat up pretty bad. I just had that on too, and it was like slinging me. You know, you have to hold the wrench weirdly through a narrow opening. It's bad. And essentially, I think that metal threw it off, and then it was like kind of pulling through. That's how that Rivnut collapsed weird. And I thought, you know what, I've got to file that off. I couldn't file it, and I was like, you know what, rotary tool it is. And my next thing was I was going to try to stick the belt sander in there. I kind of think it would have fit, but I think it would have shredded the belt or belts pretty quick, as sharp as that turned out to be. But yeah, that's what we did there, and that's what compressed the Rivnut. So there's another way where you could use like 2 wrenches, which would be way safer, but I can't do that here. There's like no way for me to hold the brace up. That was the other thing. I think the 2 wrenches would have worked if I had 2 people here, someone to help me, but it's in there, and so I'm gonna dump this stuff off, and I guess you'll find out with me, although you probably won't. You know what, I've got 2 hands, I'm limited. I'm gonna thread this in and we'll check it and then call it a night. Alright, this is really hard to do with just 2 hands, but you'll note, if you can see there, we've got the bracket, and you don't really see the Rivnut anymore. That's because there's a bolt in it, and it's the one that we had there, and it's run all the way down. I also don't usually use chrome on this, but it's just a ratchet. There's not enough power, but check this out. Can we fish it? I've got the lanyard of the camera I'm trying to wrap around here too. Boom, shakalaka, there we go. So that's not really focusing, but I don't care. There it is. The bolt goes in, the bolt goes out. The Rivnut was a success at long last. And, Man, that's ridiculous. So there she is. Like I said, you can now see there's no bolt, there's a Rivnut. So my apologies, no tripod here, kind of have to do too much, but that's that, man. It's late here, got work in the morning. I think I'm gonna call this a win. I'll clean up a little bit. I'll shop vac all that mess. I'll probably, you know how I am, I'm going to shop vac that and then I'm gonna spray it. So the sad thing is I probably ought to brush it. Just to avoid overspray where we don't want it. But anyway, that's another bridge we'll cross. You'll see this thing when it's buttoned back up. But good grief, if you ever have your bumper off, okay, and you have this problem, or it's torn out, or it's like spinning loose or something, you're going to do this. Do it with the bumper off. I mean, just save yourself the trouble. You will be grateful. Whoever turns out Transcooler in the future will appreciate it. But yeah, this was a nightmare. This was a sincere nightmare. So shopping list, the Rivnut deal, just because it's cool, is probably going to come here. If you set a lot of those things, like I'm thinking frame rails, I'm not going to have issues, on the old cars doing anything. Even on the truck, I think it'd be fine. That thing will pay for itself really fast. You do 10 Rivnuts or more, and I think that tool's paid for itself. It's really cool. Also, I have a good bit better like abrasive selection for the old Craftsman rotary tool, but not many, and I've been burning through this like trash kit, so maybe finding some better ones, because that was a wildly different looking stone when I started this project, and it didn't do much work. So with that said, man, it's turned out to be a good night after all. Gonna get the fan on, clean up. We'll pick this back up here in a little bit, and we'll see how she wraps up.